Greetings all, Shane Bruce, rest of my days, and today we've got something a bit different for you. This gun showed up recently, and it's a 1938B Red Ryder. Yeah, you heard what I said, a B. It's got a plastic trigger. Oddly enough, this one does come with one of the metal levers. That's kind of cool. And the issue with the gun was it just wasn't firing. Initially, it started dropping off in velocity, and then, according to the client, it got to the point where it would not work at all. Now, since it is a 1938B, this has got a number of things that tell you it's a 38B. It had the plastic BB trap at the muzzle. It does not have a removable bottle cap, and it has the fixed abutment, the modern fixed abutment. Well, what had happened with the gun was that at some point in time, a BB got lodged right about here and wouldn't go anywhere. So as they continued to attempt to make the gun to work, they kept firing BBs. And that resulted in about 21 or 22 of them stacking up in the barrel assembly, because the last one, the one that blocked, could not leave. So the rest just stacked up like, I don't know, a cracker in a sleeve. And until it got to the point where there was no point in shooting the gun anymore, and it wound up here. So what I wanted to show you was the abutment is, you can take it apart, you can put it together, but there's a couple things that are different with the aluminum/plastic abutment. One of those things is this small section here that rides at the back of the abutment. This is the current product's abutment seal. It's integral with the abutment assembly. So when you replace a cup seal on a Red Ryder, you don't need to replace the abutment seal, because the abutment seal is part of the abutment itself. As you can see, it's a formed hard plastic device. It doesn't get beat up like a leather seal. It doesn't deform, and it cannot detach because it's permanently installed on the back of the abutment assembly. So that's kind of a good thing, a plus thing. The negative is, because it's a fixed abutment, you can't swap shot tubes. And this takes away from some capabilities that the earlier guns do have. Well, anyway, what I wanted to show you was how to get this thing back together. All right, on the barrel itself, you'll note on one end of the barrel is a small oval. That small oval corresponds with the small casting in the base of this channel. So when you get ready to put this back together, the first thing you got to do is put that in a channel. You need to get it seated in there, which means it's supposed to be pretty firm. All right, we got that. And the next thing you want to do, we'll lay this off to the side for now. The next thing you want to do is take a look at the abutment. You'll notice that it has a flat side. A flat side. That goes in a particular spot on the black plastic section of the assembly. Down in that channel, don't know if you can see it, but there is a corresponding flat side. And that's how you mount this. You make sure that your flat side of the abutment goes into this little slot, and it rides flat. Now, when you get it in right, if you look at it, flip it up and look at it, those two bumps ought to be horizontal, not vertical. All right? So, this is also an excellent opportunity to show you where the magnets are. On the older guns like this, you have two magnets, one on each side. That's a magnet, that's a magnet. Watch the magic trick. Ooh, it won't move. It's magic. Anyway, that's where the magnets are, and that's what holds the BB in position to be struck by the air tube when the trigger's pulled. So once again, we made up our flat part with the black plastic. We get it in there. We check our orientation. Yep, that's good. Now comes the fiddly bit part. What we've got to do is, there are two black flanges here. See those little steps on the ends? Those have to hook over the back side of this aluminum plate. So you need to slide it in. Like I said, it's a fiddly bit. You got to get everything worked in right. Make sure everything's still staying together. And kind of squeeze and please. You may have to reset yourself a couple of times to get this where it needs to be, because it has to fit correctly. And we are not there. All right, so we're going to take it apart and see what we did wrong. That's what we did wrong. All right, so once again, flat part, face down. Get your barrel assembly centered in a channel. You can rotate it, but you'll know when it's locked in place because it won't move. There we go, that feels good and firm. And slide the assembly in. And there we go. So now we have our abutment assembly reassembled and ready for install. Now to install, we're going to go to the workbench. So we're going to cut it off right here, and we're going to slide over the workbench once we get the receiver position, because we've got to show you a couple things you got to be aware of when you put one of these back in.